Hi, everyone. This is Jaime Jo Wright with Madlit Musings podcast. And today I have with us a good friend of mine, Crystal Caudill. I don't even know if I'm saying her name right because
You are
I've
one of
just,
the few that have.
am I? Okay. Because, yeah, we're good friends, but I don't know how to pronounce your name.
I always tell everyone it's like you're coddling a baby.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, Crystal, you are with Kregel Publishing
Mhm.
and you have come out with a second book now. The first one was called Counterfeit Love,
Mhm.
and this one is called Counterfeit Hope. And I'd love to talk a little bit about them and see what they're all about. So tell us about them.
Uh, about both of them are counterfeit hope.
Oh, you know what? Well, we can talk about Counterfeit Hope because that's the one that just came out. So
Okay. So the series in general follows Secret
yeah.
Service operatives. So book one, you meet Andrew Darlington, who's the hero of book two, who I call my jerkface hero. Because in my first book, I didn't like him at all. And
Oh, that's funny.
I was kind of upset with God when he called me to write Andrew's story next and make him a hero. Because he's one of those guys that makes a really bad first impression.
Oh,
His mouth kind of gets in the way. He's very tactless. He has a good heart, but you don't really discover that until you're reading Counterfeit Hope. So, what it is in Counterfeit Hope, Andrew is called to a rural town in Indiana to help assist the U.S. Marshals in catching this gang of counterfeiters who have taken over the town. I mean, they're very
okay.
violent, they're very much a gang in
Mm-hmm.
all sense of the words. Um, but when he gets there, he finds out they're not just any gang, they're his former family. So
Oh,
Andrew has this history of where he used to be part of a gang family and he was arrested and then adopted
okay.
and left the family, all that, and now he's having to face them. Then you have the heroine, Lightning Lou, who is a former prostitute,
Mm-hmm.
now pickpocket, with this gang. She was married into it, and she's wanting to escape this
Okay.
gang, but she has no way of doing it. They've kind of
Right.
trapped her. She has a son, so she's
Okay.
all about trying to protect her son. So the story is about both of them facing their past, trying to escape the Thorn Gang in their own different ways, and just the chaos that kind of ensues. And they're
Yeah.
kind of unwilling partners, and they don't realize that they're on the same team. So
Okay. Well, that sounds super fascinating. I love books like that where you've got some of the adventure and a little bit of espionage type stuff thrown into it. And what time period is it set in?
1880s. I think it's
1880s.
84. 1884.
Now, I know a lot of people assume that if they work for the Secret Service that they're Pinkerton agents, but those are different, aren't they?
Very different. Thank you so much for bringing that up because
You
it
are
is.
so welcome.
The Pinkertons, um, Alan Pinkerton actually had a start in the Secret Service as far as giving some of the ideas for
Hmm.
it, but he's completely different. Everything he did was completely different. The Secret Service started out actually, it was Abraham's last thing, Abraham Lincoln's very last thing he okayed before he was assassinated a few hours
Really?
later. Yes.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
I'm a big history nerd. Um,
It's okay. You can be a history nerd.
So in 1864 or 65, my brain's kind of mushy now. Um, in July, they set the Secret Service up to catch counterfeiters because
Okay.
during the Civil War, the currency, two-thirds of it was counterfeit, half of it to
Right.
two-thirds.
Hmm.
So their main job was doing that. And so it's 1902 before they ever protect the president. So
Okay.
that's what the Secret Service did. They did counterfeiting, land fraud, whiskey runners, all sorts of fun stuff.
And then they just graduated into, protecting the president. So
Yeah. Well,
it's a
that's
natural
actually,
segue.
well, it's still only part of their job. They
Okay.
still are very much into cybersecurity. Counterfeiting is still one of their main things, believe
Really?
it or
Okay.
not. Yeah, if you go to secretservice.gov, I think it is,
Okay.
you would be amazed. Just go to their little history tab. It's just so much awesome information.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So the heroes in both books are Secret Service agents, and then you've
Mhm.
got a third one that's coming out in May,
May.
if I'm correct. Is that also a Secret Service agent too?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And
Super fun.
Josiah is the flirtatious, everybody loves him kind of guy.
So you went from jerk face to flirt face.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm gonna have to steal that now.
Jerk face to flirt face. Don't say that fast 3 times. That would be a little bit of a tongue twister, but oh, that's super fun. So what made you pick the angle of the Secret Service to begin with? Like I said, so many people do gravitate to like the
Mhm.
Pinkertons or something like that. So what awakened your brain to this element of history?
So, Civil War was actually one of the stories I was starting to write first.
Okay.
And people were said to be in the Secret Service, which is why it gets confused a lot.
Okay.
But you weren't in the Secret Service
Oh,
because it
okay.
wasn't created until the end of the Civil War.
Right. Right.
Um, so somehow that led into me discovering a set of articles published in newspapers by former Secret Service operatives sharing their stories, like their
Okay.
cases and stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And so I actually went out and bought a copy that they compiled into a book from the 1920s
Oh,
and
fun.
read through all of them. And
Oh,
so
neat.
that's kind of where the inspiration came from.
Yeah.
Researching it was a little harder because people tend to want to know about the president's side of things. And to find books
Okay.
that talk about history before JFK was really, really hard.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. I mean, I guess from one standpoint, that gives you a little bit more room then for um what's the word? Artistic expression or
Unless you're
free
OCD
license.
like me.
Then there's no grace at all. It must be correct.
I I went so far as to so the Freedom of Information Act allows you to access certain documents. So I found actual Secret Service reports from the 1880s and read them.
Oh, see, that's cool though. That
It
would be
is.
really interesting. I like that. If you've ever want to go down another rabbit trail, this is mine is newspapers.com, which sounds kind of boring, but when you type in things like the other day I typed in elopements and I put in the year 1880, and then there's all these tales, and they don't just say that, John eloped with Jane. It's like literally the sordid romance put in the public newspaper for everyone to read. So those old documents can be so much fun.
I actually have a subscription to newspapers.com because I
Yeah.
do like doing that.
We should have a newspapers.com party.
That would be fun. I'm such a nerd.
It is. It's so fun to read those old newspapers. The other thing I noticed with newspapers, and then we'll actually get back to talking about you, but me and rabbit trails,
I
squirrel
love rabbit
trails,
trails.
whatever, is, and of course I'm the one that's going to notice this, but their obituaries were way cooler back in the day.
Mhm.
Because now you see an obituary, but it tells you nothing. It just says that
Right.
so and so is no longer with us. Services will be at such and such a
Mhm.
time. And you're like, there was a lot more that happened, and
Mhm.
my curiosity is piqued, whether that's good form or not, probably not, but you go back in newspapers.com and you look up old obituaries, and again you get the entire
Mhm.
drama of the story that's played out on paper.
Yeah.
So it's always fun.
I just love the old newspapers in general. They're
Yeah.
great sources of inspiration for stories too.
Oh, they have so much. In fact, the book I'm reading right now has is from one of those, and it was really like a 3 line
Mhm.
comment, but it was just enough to go, oh, ooh,
That's so
story.
fun.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so you have a jerk face hero who is unlikable but becomes more likable, I'm assuming, as the story goes
Yes.
on. And then you have a heroine who has a not so pretty background.
Mhm.
So you're kind of delving into some interesting areas here. Did you find that to be a challenge at all?
Yes and no. So this is a story that's actually really, really close to my heart.
Okay.
Um, Growing up, I had some friends who experienced some things they should not have.
Mhm.
and I walked with them through some of the recovery
Mhm.
of it. And just there's a lot that goes into it. And
Yeah.
it was kind of a processing thing for me as well. And if I could reach out and talk to those friends again, this is the
Mhm.
message of hope I would give you, because I
Mhm.
didn't have that message of hope back then when I
Okay.
was walking through it with them.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was hard to walk through, and it was,
Yeah.
but
Difficult to go
they,
through those times for sure.
yeah,
So is this kind of like a hope in the darkness type story?
always
Okay.
that's my hope anyways, is that people will walk away with hope.
Yeah.
Um, with any of my stories, but especially that one. I don't want people to live believing that their past defines them.
Mm.
And whether it was past decisions they made or past decisions that were forced on them. Because sometimes you can't help what's been done to you or
Right.
what's been forced upon you. And it's you can have freedom from that, and you can
Yeah.
have love and hope and a future.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Why do you think people fall into the um I'm not going to use the right word, but fall into the trap of letting their past define them? What do you think it is about that becomes such a detriment to healthy, hopeful living?
there's just a part of us, and it's the sinful part, and it's the part that Satan likes to expose, where we
Mhm.
just can only focus on the negatives. Like
Mm.
if you are given a 10-page paper telling you all about the things about you, and there's 9 pages of good things but 1 page of bad, you're only going to remember the bad,
Mm.
or at least hold on to it. And I think that's
Mhm.
kind of the same with our past. We can look back, we can see all the good things, but our eyes are going to go to that negative stuff that we wish could have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that's so true. Because even if you have a exam or something like that, you focus on the fact you got three wrong, not the fact you got 205 right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I get that. But do you think sometimes, I mean, because a lot of those pasts though, and I'm assuming, even in relation to your character stories, um, they're not just definitions, but they leave scars,
Oh, yeah.
and so how do you, in your story or even in real life through faith, how do you move past the scars that will always be there to remind you of the negative in the past?
I think that's where the relationship with Christ really comes in. And that spoiler alert, Lou has a redemption story in this,
Uh-huh.
and she does come to know Christ.
Okay.
Um, and that is the turning point for her in being able to face her past and face and be able to carry through the consequences of her
Mm-hmm.
past. Because even when you have Christ, you're going to have those consequences that you still have to face.
Yeah.
And that was really one of the big things in writing this story for me, is I didn't want Lou to come to Christ and everything be okay, because in
Mm-hmm.
real life that's not how it works. We still
Right.
have everything we have to deal with, the baggage, the literal consequences. I mean, so having Christ to lean on, to know that your hope and your future is eternal, and that this
Mm-hmm.
is only a short temporary thing, and that you're not going through it alone,
Mm-hmm.
that that is what helps us through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I believe that too. I mean, it definitely is. It's interesting to talk with people who have come through those types of scarring backgrounds. And then I think sometimes I've talked with some people and they're like, well, I don't really have much of a testimony because something dramatic didn't happen in my past.
Mhm.
But really, I think if we all look, there's scars of some sort that we're dealing with. And then we look forward into the future and we're looking to Christ and we're looking to the hope that he offers. So, in light of your story, what type of hope does he offer to your characters that really changes their life? Because hope can be seen in different ways.
For them, they're hoping, both of them are hoping for a future that is different from what they've experienced in the
Okay.
past. Um, Lou wants her son to have an honest future, a chance to have worth, to be just not a criminal. Um,
Right. Yeah.
and this hope in Christ has given her a way to walk out of this world of crime and provide that for her son. But it's also providing hope and healing for her specifically. I'm trying to think how to say some things without
The
giving it
spoilers.
away. It's just, and for Andrew, his biggest thing was overcoming his past was through achieving the best reputation he could in his
Okay.
field of work.
Sure.
So he was kind of making his work an idol. And so his hope came through finding out that that's not really what defines him.
Right.
That doesn't determine if he's a good person or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hope just, it gives them both an identity outside of themselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's so key, is that identity outside of yourself and outside of your shortcomings, and your failings, and even your fears, even if it's not a failing or a shortcoming, but it's just fear. Being able to look at something different and grab onto that and find hope in that is huge for sure. Love that. What do you hope your readers get when they're reading your books? I mean, I know that faith to you is really, really important. And so when you're writing the books, what are you hoping and praying for your readers?
That they will get whatever God is calling them to get out of it. Like, I don't walk into the stories knowing what like the spiritual arcs are going to be. I really want God to kind of guide that. And so my prayer is that it'll be whatever God needs it to be for them.
Sure.
Whether it's personal hope in Christ or an encouragement that even though I'm walking through this really dark time, he's not going to leave me. I just want them to walk away stronger in their faith and encouraged in their faith.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So you have these two books, and then you have another one coming out in May, and you do have a prequel for this too, correct?
I do.
All right.
Counterfeit Truth.
Okay. And how do we get the prequel?
So there's two ways. You could pay $2.99 and get it off Amazon.com, or you can sign up for my newsletter and get it for free.
Hey.
So the easy way to type it in is bit.ly, so bit.ly/C for counterfeit, and then truth with a capital T. So
okay, awesome, easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Awesome. And do you have a website or anything if readers want to go and learn out more about you and your books?
Just crystalcaudill.com. Super easy.
Sounds great. Crystal, this was super fun. I'm glad to have you here. And
thank you for having me.
I love your heart and your stories, and really encourage everybody to go out and check out these books because they are good. They're delicious. If books were a food cuisine, these would be on the list of entrees. So you must try.
I love that. That is fantastic.
Oh man. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, and we'll have to have you back. All right.
All right. Thank you so much.